Welcome to the Points After Thursday show with Biggs and Grindberg right here on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. Here's Grindberg. I am Biggs. We're here to talk about the Dolphins versus Bills Thursday night football game. Also, do some starts and sits and stuff, getting you ready for week 3. And yeah, how you doing? That was quite a game.
Yeah, it was quite a game. I mean, what to be expected for the Bills in Miami at this time of year? Not used to seeing them play here at this stage, but used to seeing them play it a little bit colder. But I mean, working good for the Bills. You know, we expected Josh Allen to come out and swing the ball here, and James Cook looked really good. So, what are your thoughts on the initial Bills? They're off to 3-0. Look like the class of the AFC right now, and not much stopping them at this stage. I mean, Miami's now 0-3, so it's not like they were a huge opponent, but these divisional games are always something to look after.
Well, let's be fair. Buffalo could very well be 2-1. They did come back against what looked like a far superior Baltimore team, but Josh Allen put him on his back. Looking at everything on balance, Buffalo has wins against the Ravens and the Jets, who weren't much of a problem. The Dolphins, we know they're not that good either. So, beware of paper tigers. Now, we did have Tua Tagovailoa. I guess they're trying to grind out garbage time. There's 16 seconds left. But Tua's 22 of 34 for 146 yards. That's not getting it done. Devon Achane with 62 yards on the ground. Ollie Gordon with a touchdown and 38 yards. Malik Washington with a carry for 6 yards, as well as 5 targets and 3 catches for 12 yards. So a lot of short game passing for Tua, averaging 4.3 yards per completion. He also threw an interception late in the fourth quarter as they were driving to try and tie the game. And then Josh Allen, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. If they can get by every week with him only throwing for 213 yards, James Cook had a day, 108 yards and a touchdown. Dalton Kincaid and Jackson Hawes, surprising at the tight end position. Kincaid had 66 yards and a touchdown, and then Khalil Shakir added 45 yards and a touchdown. So, I had Khalil Shakir as a start last week. That didn't quite work out. I should have waited. I should have waited a week, and then I'd have been just fine.
Yeah, I mean, it was a game where, I was looking at the Miami offense as after seeing some momentum last week, we saw, Tyreek Hill come back with some, back-to-back games here, looking back to, not his top performance, but, at least salvaging some fantasy managers' nights, and Achane with a bunch of targets in the backfield, not getting too much work as far as yardage goes, but, not a bad night for him either. 7 for 29 and 62 yards rushing. What's your thoughts on Tua? He looked pretty much in distress for quite a bit of the night here, and they did make a game of it at the end of it, so you got to hand it to the Dolphins at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, have we really been in on Tua since his second concussion? We got Benjamin in the chat, had Bills minus 10.5. Man, that's a rough one. I lost a fantasy matchup by 0.02, so I know how you feel. And then tonight I had Josh Allen with 23 with higher than 19.5 rushing yards. He had 23. I had Waddle with higher than 39.5. He has 39. So there's your 0.5 points. And then I had Devon Achane lower than 64.5 rushing yards. He came up with 62. So I just needed a half a yard more for Waddle to have won that. So I feel your pain. Absolutely feel your pain.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, good way to start the weekend here as far as the games go. A decent scoring game. Some people had the under. Did you end up hitting your tickets here, Biggs, or
That's what I'm saying. No, because of half of a Waddle yard. Otherwise, I would have hit
a Waddle yard.
Yeah,
gotcha. He lost Jamie. What's up, Jamie? What's up, Albert? Welcome back. Albert's always in our
Albert.
I lost a 7-leg parlay by one. All right, that one takes the cake, Jamie. You always have to one up everybody.
Yeah, mine was only half a yard, but it was also only a 3-leg parlay.
Well, we had a coach on the Pulse. He was talking about a parlay he had, and he needed who did he need? He needed Kincaid to get that second touchdown, and he
I think
almost
that
had
was just a straight up two touchdown play for Kincaid. I don't think that was
yeah,
part of a parlay.
yeah. It was a big one for him, but yeah. I mean, what can you do? I mean, he had one fall right out of his hands, right in the end zone, and then he was stopped short on the 1 yard line. So what could have been a monster night for Kincaid ended up being a pretty good one. So what's up, Mad Dog?
Welcome back to Earth, Dalton Kincaid. We haven't seen you in a while.
No kidding. Folks, if you got any questions in the chat, come on in and talk to us. Talk about a player you want to discuss, maybe. I got a lot going on here. Biggs, what game are you looking forward to most this weekend outside of your Raiders playing?
That's a great question, Mike. Give me a sec.
Well, I want to talk about potentially. Yeah, let's talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown because, a lot of people were kind of lower on him headed into this season. Jared Goff coming in week 2, after playing a Green Bay defense, and what happened. Talked about it a little bit on the Pulse. Monster game from Jared Goff and company, 5 touchdowns. Amon-Ra getting 3 of those. He continued his streak from last year, being a red zone target for this Detroit Lions team. What do you think about that situation moving forward?
I have not changed my stance on what the Lions are doing. Amon-Ra is real. Jared Goff is real. The Detroit Lions offense is real. They haven't skipped a beat, even though Ben Johnson went on. Their offensive coordinator just took over a system that their play calling is the same. It's really just the Lions. Now, the thing to watch out for, not in fantasy, but over the course of the season, is the disparity in the Lions' rest versus their opponents. It's worse than what the 49ers had last year. And we could see some attrition through injury later on, based on the fact that these guys they're going up against more fresh players. But other than that, the fantasy is pretty much the same. We know what to expect from everybody. With that attrition, if I could bet on a David Montgomery injury right now, I would, or an over/under on that.
So we got a question. Let's talk a little Jordan Mason here, Biggs, because coming off of an Aaron Jones injury, now he's headed to IR, so he's going to miss at least 4 games, and it's not looking great for the Vikings either because they lost their starting quarterback. JJ McCarthy is going to be gone for a couple games now too, so there's a lot of variables right now in that Minnesota Viking offense, and Jordan Mason is at the forefront here. He's obviously the main beneficiary of the Aaron Jones touches, and without much backup there in that backfield to help him out here, are we looking at a huge up and coming couple of games here for Jordan Mason? I'm not sure. We're looking at an offense that's probably going to be minimalized because of their starting quarterback Carson Wentz. But what's your take on this situation?
Well, I don't know how you can downplay Xavier Scott so hard. This kid finds himself in a position where all of a sudden Aaron Jones is on the IR, and so is Ty Chandler. So Xavier Scott is now the RB2. Who'd have thunk with no JJ McCarthy? Now they're looking at Carson Wentz. So yes, this Vikings team is in trouble. Now they have a situation this week when they're playing the Cincinnati Bengals. We know that the Cincinnati Bengals have problems on the defensive side of the football. That means that Carson Wentz is likely to have a fairly big game. Now, if we start looking into the numbers through the course of the season, the Cincinnati Bengals pass defense is way worse than average. Their rush defense isn't, and that's probably because their passing defense is so bad. So we don't really have a good read on what the run game in Minnesota can do. They were pretty much handled by the Bears. They didn't have a great week. Now they go up against the Cincinnati Bengals team that you don't need to run a whole lot on. So we look a little bit deeper into it, and we start looking at what can Jordan Mason expect as far as targets are concerned. And he has 4 targets on the season, 3 catches, 4 targets. Aaron Jones, more prolific in the receiving game. In fact, in the first game of the season, I believe Jordan Mason had more of the carries, and Aaron Jones was used as more of a receiving back. Well, those receptions need to go somewhere. They're going to go to Jordan Mason. So I am very measured on Jordan Mason, but also very optimistic. And Jamie with a nice message
their
here.
offense could be absolutely, Jamie. Thanks for all the support. Absolutely, Jamie's always kicking around and helping us through the game. So let's go, Jamie. Thanks for tuning in. Now, bigz, got a couple of games on the slate that are pretty high scoring. I want to see what the fantasy implications have for us. Now, got a game here, Lions and Ravens. That's going to be the Monday night special that everybody's probably circled on their calendar. So we have to talk about that. 53.5 points right now is the line. That's the highest line of the year so far. Expecting some fireworks here. What are you thinking? Could this be a dud, or is this everything that everybody's hoping for?
Well, we're talking about Vegas here when we talk about lines. And what does Vegas want? Vegas wants people to bet on a big game. I don't see that happening. I think Baltimore's defense is really, really good. I also don't think that Baltimore is going to run the ball very well on the Lions. So I can definitely see a situation where the Ravens get out in front, but they can't run the ball, and Detroit is fairly ineffectual. So we get an under game. What does that mean in fantasy? I think everybody eats across the board, but I think the line is low. And again, I don't know if this is my internet. I've been having problems all night. I don't know if this is your internet. If somebody in the chat can tell me,
now. Can you hear me?
Is Mike freezing up or am I freezing up? Because to me, it looks like Mike is. But
I'm good. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?
All right, I heard that loud and clear. I think I'm back. Am I good? Are we good?
Apparently, we're all good, but Mike keeps freezing on me. So
I think bigz is freezing. Okay, yeah, we're all good. Okay, let's get back to the action here, Ned. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 1. Is this sustainable throughout the whole season? Is he going to be, double teamed? He's already getting double teams. They're just hoofing the ball up to him. 163 yards, 2 touchdowns last week, and a monster performance in a shootout. And I think that this could be, something of what's going to happen of every single game this year. It just could be just a monster.
Well, I think it was said by somebody super, super smart going into the 2024 season, if Malik Neighbors winds up as fantasy wide receiver 1, they wouldn't be surprised. Oh, yeah, that was me. And now he's a year better and he's got a better quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I will say again, if Malik Neighbors winds up as the wide receiver 1 for 2025, I will not be surprised at all. I'm not saying he's gonna, but it would be one of the least surprising outcomes of the season. Just like if Jamar Chase. So I will say the more surprising thing would be if Jamar Chase or Malik Neighbors were not the number 1 wide receiver for the year.
Fair. Now, what's your take on this quarterback situation here? We've got a lot of injuries happening right now. We need some advice for fantasy managers that just lost a Joe Burrow, that just lost potentially a Jaden Daniels or a Justin Fields, Brock Purdy last week. they're just coming up, and it's just nonstop right now, and it seems to be targeting one position. There's quite a few quarterbacks out there and potentially still on the wire. We talked about Daniel Jones on the fantasy forecast the last couple weeks here as a waiver wire guy. We talked about Jake Browning this week. Any other deep guys that you're looking at? I know Mariota potentially could be a guy that you might be looking at maybe starting if Jaden Daniels doesn't start. What's your take here on the quarterback room and some advice for our viewers, Biggs?
Well, I don't know if I would start Marcus Mariota against the Las Vegas Raiders. Basically, you throw a shot at Carson Wentz, you throw a shot at Tyrod Taylor. You definitely start Jake Browning if you have Jake Browning. Other than that, it's pretty bleak. I don't hate Mac Jones in San Francisco if Brock can't go this week. But, we drafted for these things. If you've got waivers that just happened, I hope that you got one of those quarterbacks because your quarterback is banged up, or you had a cromulent backup on your roster. If I check real quickly, what I did was I drafted a lot of 3 quarterback teams with Jaden Daniels and then Jackson Dart and Geno Smith. So I'm not huge on Geno right now, but in those leagues, in those situations, he's the guy I have to go with if Daniels doesn't play. I'm hoping for Jackson Dart to land at some point, but it might not be very soon. The way that Russ Wilson threw the ball last week.
Yeah, well, there's a game that outside of the Ravens and Lions, the one that I've got circled on my calendar because of the upside in this game. Two guys in this game are part of my starts of the week, and if you really want to get deep into that, stay tuned to the fantasy forecast on Saturday morning. You'll hear all about my starts and sits of this week, and couple guys in this game, in the Cowboys-Bears game, and a potential shootout here. 50 points is the over-under. I think that is potential for an over here. Both defenses are, playing from behind, and I think that this has got all the makings of just a fantasy shootout. A couple big weapons in this game. George Pickens had his first touchdown as a Cowboy last week. What's your take on the Cowboys? They are looking pretty good out of their backfield with Javonte Williams coming in and being a surprise for some fantasy owners, and a pleasant surprise. If you were to get him at the discount, you would have gotten him as a top 5 running back right now, Biggs.
Yeah, I saw the Javonte thing coming, talked about it on the forecast, and I see the Cowboys being in a lot of shootouts this year. Dak likes to chuck the ball. Their running game is fine, and their outside corners are bad. So you can throw on them, you can score on them, and they're going to have to keep up. So if there's one team that I can see is going to be in a lot of shootouts this year, it's the Cowboys.
Well, then on the other side of the ball there, you got the Bears, who are coming off a couple losses that they probably want back. One being a second half collapse against their division opponents, the Minnesota Vikings, and last week, one that they're going to want to forget, 52 banger against another division rival, the Lions. What do you have to say about that, the Bears team, and Roma Dunze emerging here as the number 1 target? Caleb looking pretty good. Their run game needs to improve a little bit here. I know they've had a couple tough matchups, so maybe things are going to start falling into place, and that whole offense as a whole will really start jiving. What's your take on the Bears and the outcome of this game? Because I think there's going to be a lot of points scored.
Similar to the Cowboys. So, and looking at this matchup, the Dallas Cowboys have allowed 80 yards total, 80 rushing and passing combined yards, 80 total yards per game more than the average game. The Bears have allowed 91 more. So that's like combined 170 more yards than your average game. The only team that's worse than those two is the Kansas City Chiefs. They've allowed 93 total yards more than average. So it's basically like you get two offenses that are highly charged against two defenses that can't stop anybody, and that's going to be a fun game.
Well, I'm going to give you a layup here, Biggs, because I like to put feathers in your cap at times. Sometimes I like to give you some hard questions that, bring up, fails from the past. But I also like to point out some things that you really hit the nail on the head on. And I'm talking about Jackson Smith-Njigba, a guy that you had pegged in here, and you boldly called him to outperform, and it's still, early in the season, to outperform Justin Jefferson, based off of what you saw last year and what you saw coming into this season. So tell us a little bit about what you see in Jackson Smith-Njigba, and do you think that he's actually going to finish this year as a top 5 wide receiver? Because that's the trajectory. That is what I see happening, and you were one of the first on the market to him, and boldly call that. So what's your take? Is he going to finish in the top 5?
No. We're 2 weeks into the season. There's 15 weeks left. There's still a lot that can happen. So to outright make a call like that right now, top 12, definitely. Top 5, I don't know about that. There are a handful of guys that I can see having some absolute bangers of games. We got CeeDee Lamb out there. Malik Neighbors is out there. Jamar Chase is out there. Justin Jefferson is out there. There's a bunch of guys. Jackson Smith-Njigba is definitely in the conversation. And one of the biggest signals in the offseason for me was how they moved DK Metcalf after JSN's breakout season last year. Also, having a Clint Kubiak offense in the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree with Sam Darnold, who is a direct result of that coaching tree over the last couple of years. He was in that type of offense last year, and we saw his accuracy with Justin Jefferson. That has all transferred over to Seattle and Jackson Smith-Njigba. So potential is there for Jackson Smith-Njigba to have a huge year. This week, they go up against a New Orleans team that has been kind of better than expected against the pass, but they also are pretty light against the run, which means I'm seeing a Kenneth Walker game. Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to get his targets, but I don't know if they're going to need to throw the ball a whole lot against New Orleans.
Now, let's talk. Jamie's got a little comment here. My buddy posted my damn parlay. I lost on Twitter. I tagged you guys in comments. Check it out. Will do, Jamie. We will get in on that. Yeah, sometimes buddies can get the best of us, and I would never do that to you, Biggs. Right? Would I do that to you?
Absolutely.
I would. Yeah.
Just being a good friend.
Yeah, you're just pointing out, what you need to improve on, and if we don't improve on our parlays, what are we good for now? Biggs storyline here. Daniel Jones coming into this year. Some had him pegged as a backup. Some had him pegged as the starter. He's coming in. He's showing people out. He's a top 7 quarterback like he was in 2022 when he led the Giants to the playoffs and had some success there. So what's your take? Is this something that he's going to sustain throughout the whole year? I know I have my convictions about it. What's your take?
Yes.
Love it. Yes. I mean, he's come out of the gate looking sharp. Some of the other teams in that division also, there's some potential, but I just think
I said on the Dynasty Pulse, which will be posted tomorrow, correct?
Yep.
That Daniel Jones has top 10 upside. We knew that. We knew that coming in. If you have a top 10 finish as a quarterback in fantasy football once, we know you can do it again. Daniel Jones has had that upside. He had a bad year last year with a terrible situation, a bad offensive line, injuries, but he's done it before. We know he can do it again in the right situation. He has an improved offensive line this year. He's also got last year he had Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. That was it. This year he has Pittman. He's got Alec Pierce. He's got Josh Downs. He's got Tyler Warren. He's got the weapons. All he needs to do is produce, and we know that he can do that.
All right, let's let's veer some of our content towards some of our viewers, and we've got a viewer that I know is a avid Cleveland Browns fan, and we want to talk a little bit about his team and
No,
potentially
we
about.
don't.
Yeah, man. I want to talk about
Uh,
Quinshon Judkins and some of the potential we saw on the 10 carries he got last week for over 60 yards. And is this, something that's going to emerge now? I know they got a really tough matchup this week against the Packers, and that run defense looks formidable. That whole defense looks like it's going to be the class of the NFL in 2025. So, what's your take here on Quinshon? And obviously this week is going to be a tough one, but moving forward, I see him being maybe the dark horse of this rookie class to emerge in this running back class has not performed yet.
well, excuse me. I loaded up on the clowns. I loaded up on Quinshon Judkins and Caleb Johnson this year. I expected a lot out of both of them. Quinshon had a little bit of a hiccup during the offseason. He's going to get right. This is not the game that he's going to get right. Yes, he had a 6-yard per carry average last week, and it was great, and that's what we can expect from him. He's a really good running back, but not this week. Nobody's a good at anything against the Packers. Now, I said on the shows when the Micah Parsons trade went down that I saw a tweet that said the EPA per play with the Dallas defense was second best over the last 4 years when Micah Parsons was on the field, and worst in the NFL when he was off the field. And that's what the Packers have become, is the best defense in terms of EPA per play. And it's a direct result of Micah Parsons being there. They have allowed over 100 fewer yards per average. And that's called getting it done. And we're talking about some teams that are good that they've played against. They held Jaden Daniels down. They're really, really good. I would not be starting Cleveland Browns this week.
What's up, Pranko? Thanks for tuning in again. Trade Etienne for Geno and Travis Hunter in a super flex. The lost Burrow. That's a tough one to swallow. I know that you're probably scrambling right now there, Pranko, but keep a level-headed mind. You also have Love, which is your other QB, and you got Wentz and Dart also, which are fillers. So, I mean, it's not panic mode, and we've seen what Etienne can do for your fantasy roster right now. So I know he's got a lot of value. So if you can get someone in return, but I'm not sure about this trade here, Biggs. What are you thinking here?
I say don't do it. Geno will be better than he was last week against the Chargers. But this is kind of a teaser or a spoiler for the fantasy forecast, but Schultze was talking about their Travis Hunter usage, and he was so good on defense that they might scale back his offensive usage a little bit. But we love Travis Etienne. We've loved Travis Etienne all through 2023, all through 2024, but he dealt with some injuries, and we loved him coming into 2025. I don't make that trade. I roll with Love and hope, and you at least have Wentz if Love has a bad matchup, and then we hope for Dart by week 6 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, if the Giants continue to lose, which it looks like the pattern, they're going to need to start their first round draft pick that they traded up for, even though Russell Wilson looks like he could get the deep ball to Malik Neighbors. But if they're not winning games, or Dable's going to be fighting for his job, and that might give him a longer leash if he decides to put the rookie in, and gives him a little bit of more of a leash here. Nino, what is going on? How cooked do you believe Pacheco is? Thinking about sending Pacheco straight up for B-Rob on the CMC owner. Now, this is a tough one. I know that, Biggs, you had Pacheco as one of your starts of the week this year, so maybe you may give Nino a little bit of room for breathing. He has not looked good, and Kareem Hunt has actually looked better, so I want to hear your opinion and maybe give Nino some advice.
I just want to offer a correction. I said a few minutes ago that the Chiefs had the worst defense in the NFL. That was the Giants. I misread it. The Giants have allowed the most runs or the most yards per game over the average, which is why I like Pacheco this week. However, if you can hold off, I think you're in good shape, at least for this week with CMC and Chase Brown. If you can hold off until Monday or Tuesday to send that trade offer, do it after Pacheco goes up against the New York Giants.
You might be able to get more off of that trade after he goes up against the New York Giants. So maybe hold off and see what happens here, because not sure you're in too big of a need here at your running back. I know that Harvey has not started performing yet, but I see a lot of upside here in Trey Benson, and he's starting to emerge, and you're definitely not thin there. Someone offered me Brian Thomas Jr. and Travion Henderson for JSN and Pollard. I'm assuming this is a redraft league, and I'm not doing that trade. Not anytime soon. JSN, like we talked about earlier in the show, I have him now finishing as a top 6 wide receiver, and you could just see the workload that Tony Pollard has gotten, 20 plus touches a game. Travion Henderson is barely seeing the field, and Antonio Gibson is now coming in and taking some work out of it that not one of us has ever probably would have predicted that happening when you see the talent in that room. And Brian Thomas Jr., there's some red flags. So yeah, go with JSN and Pollard. You're set up there. No need to make a move, Parenko, if you, especially in lateral positioning here, unless you need to upgrade at another position. And at this stage, you're up on both those sides here, in my opinion.
Is Parenko a Tampa Bay Lightning fan? Is that what I'm seeing there? That's gotta hurt.
No, St. Louis Blues. St. Louis Blues, my man.
All right. So we talked on the Dynasty Pulse, which is coming out tomorrow, about Brian Thomas Jr. Mike thinks that it's a Trevor Lawrence problem. The other kind of idea is that there's something going on in his head right now, because we know his talent level, but he just lost his best friend. So they're something more than just on the field could be happening. Jamie said about the clowns, unless it's Harold Fannin Jr., then we can do a whole show. I just want to say, as long as Joe Flacco is quarterbacking the Cleveland Browns, I'm okay with starting both Harold Fannin and David Njoku. All right, just had to get that out.
All right, we talked about the quarterbacks going down. We talked about a couple of the bigger matchups. What else do we need to touch base on here potentially before we let our viewers go? We're 35 minutes in, got another 10-15 left in us, Biggs. Chargers, Broncos, divisional battle here. Couple of teams that are, fighting for ground here. And the Broncos coming off a disappointing loss late in the game to a surprising Indianapolis Colts team. They're going to look for some revenge, and the Chargers are looking like quite a bit of changes happening there. They, from what a lot of us thought, myself included, would be more of a run-centric team. They are coming out of the gate as one of the more pass-happy teams, passing well above their expectation. Jamie, we'll get into your question right after Biggs talks about this situation here.
Let's not forget that this is a team that only put up 20 points against the Las Vegas Raiders. So the message there is maybe the Raiders have an underrated defense. We had Najee Harris and Omari and Hampton combining for 16 total carries. They basically had that game in hand just because of their defense. So the Chargers, as long as their defense keeps playing like it has, they're legit. And I see this as a very low-scoring game. Kind of like the 29 points scored the Chargers and Raiders. In Dynasty, I keep Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, me too. I'm pretty high on Ollie, especially seeing his role today, eating into the red zone work and scoring a touchdown there on the 2-yard line there. You can't beat it, I think.
Yeah,
that upside there.
He's taken over for Jalen Wright.
Yeah, and you know what? He's got that Mostert upside there, where if things do end up clipping for Miami, he's got that upside of being in a really good high powered offense, and they're showing some signs of that. So I'm not completely selling all my Miami Dolphins shares. Seeing Waddle starting to emerge a little bit here, Tua starting to find his rhythm. I think that they've had a couple tough games to start the year, and potentially when they get back home and seeing some hotter temperatures and some home field advantage, might see some differences moving forward.
And I'm the dummy that just dropped Ollie Gordon earlier today.
Me too. I mean, I had to for another position. Yes. Like he was on a lot of our benches headed into this year because we saw him as that potential guy that could get that Raheem Mostert role in that offense. And I'm excited to see what he can do. And I'm still holding on to shares of him, especially in Dynasty. And, I wouldn't sell him for anything less than a second, in my opinion. Bigz, we got a Genty question. I just traded Genty for Bucky Irving.
Not in redraft necessarily?
Nope. I think it's a pretty lateral move. We and coming from a Raiders fan back there, you had some reservations on the pulse about you mentioned him as a stock down, but a guy that you should be buying in Dynasty, but red flag here for redraft, right, Bigz?
Yeah, I mean, good things are coming from good things are coming from Genty. If you look at the schedule a little bit, it's a favorable matchup for him against the Commanders. We do. My dog. My dog is going off. Where is that matchup I was looking at? There it is. Yeah, I mean, there are some good matchups on the horizon for Genty, but his usage rate at this point, the Chip Kelly offense is not functioning the way that it should. I talked a lot in the offseason about the fact that Ashton Genty can face loaded boxes and be okay. There are deep threats on the outside. There's a lot of like Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers and even Michael Mayer working underneath are good. There's something wrong with the play calling and with the offensive line play that needs to get fixed. When that happens, Ashton Genty is probably going to kind of take off. So if this is a redraft trade, I don't hate it. I mean, my soul hates it, but my analytic brain doesn't hate it. But in Dynasty, I don't do that.
I'm still a little bit worried about Bucky, seeing his usage, seeing what Rachaad White did. They still they hold him in high regard there. They're giving him high value touches and important moments in games too. And if it weren't for the passing upside that Bucky got in that last game, which isn't what he normally does game to game, he's not normally a 7 to 8 target kind of guy. Those pass catches go to Rachaad White normally. So I'm a little bit hesitant there, to trade that. I think that, I'd much rather go with a guy that's going to get the lion's share, but it's a pretty lateral trade at this stage. You're looking to shake things up. If you're 0-2, I could totally see it. You want to move the needle a little bit, and Bucky is coming off a decent game here, and the Bucks are a better offense. So I think that you probably made the right decision for your team. And if you want a good floor pick, I think Bucky's your guy. And maybe down the line, Genty will be a guy that will be the league winner for you. But at this stage, you need to get into the playoffs. And I think Bucky's the guy to do that for you at this stage.
Yeah. You need to stop, Jamie.
Pete Carroll, old age dementia is causing bad play calling. Well,
Pete Carroll's not calling plays. And Jorge says it was Irving or Kyron Williams, and I like Irving better.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think that's the good one. Millie Mills, what is up? How is it going?
So, Millie, we also have another question from. Wait, what?
Jorge?
Jamie? Okay, we're behind now. What if I counter with a second, then add my fourth for what? Oh, for Gordon. No, don't trade Ollie Gordon. That's what we're trying to say. And then, do I trade Drake? And if I do, who do I target? Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, CeeDee Lamb. That's about it.
Maybe Jason at this stage is moving.
I was thinking that too,
range.
but I wasn't willing to say it.
Yeah, he's in that range for me now. There's very few guys I know that you're worried about. Drake London. Because a lot of us had him pegged as a guy that is going to pop off this year. I think that's still in the cards for him.
Absolutely.
I just think that some game strips and just a couple missed passes, and he's up there. So I'm not trying to trade Drake May unless you can get one of those aforementioned
Drake
guys
London.
that Biggs mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jorge, I want to reiterate something that I've said on the fantasy forecast a couple of times. We are entering week 3 in this season. There are people who led the NFL in points in week 1 that aren't going to do much beyond that. Then you had guys that had a huge week 1 and a bad week 2. You had guys that had a bad week 1 and a huge week 2. It is still too early in the season to make decisions like that. There are offenses need some time to gel sometimes. Sometimes you get a bad matchup in the first week or the second week, and it's a very small sample size from which to make a decision like that. So the standard is wait until after week 4 before you make a major decision like that, especially somebody that you drafted in the first or second round. Now, that can change a little bit when we're talking about injuries, but if you have a guy who you drafted in the first or second or third round that is healthy and just has had a bad couple weeks to start the season, you don't make any decisions for a while before that.
Yeah, good call, Millie Mills, though, as well here. I think Puka's in the range of guys I'd be in that interested in as well.
I'm more interested in the little hat.
A little hat. Yeah, me too. Yeah, somewhat a little hat. I love my hats. Bigz, 45 in. Got about 5 more minutes left. Any last minute questions, guys and girls? Please get them in here. Jorge. 0-2 roster: Hurts, Daniel Jones, Irving Mason, Drake, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Warren. How is this team 0-2 is the question I have.
That's what I'm thinking.
You're just getting some bad luck at this point, my man. I'm telling you right now, Jorge, this team is certainly worthy of coming around. Maybe because Drake London hasn't been your guy. I think a little bit of patience here. Now you got Mason as well entering as a workhorse back here in that offense. So I think you're in pretty good shape here. And, I wouldn't be too concerned about making a big move. Obviously, 0-2 scares you, but hold.
Daniel Jones in the quarterback spot. Irving and Mason as your RB1 and 2. Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Emeka Egbuka in the 3. Or the flex. And then you go Tyler Warren as your tight end. Sutton has been a disappointment, but I wouldn't give up on him. And then Colts D, it sounds like you've had bad schedule luck because you have a fairly good team, and you might have had some trouble with starting the right guy, but that happens. It's the first couple weeks of the season. So you draft a guy, you start him week 1, he doesn't do much, and then you take him out and put somebody else in who doesn't do much, and then the other guy goes off, and then you get a bad schedule where somebody gets lucky and has 4 players go off. So again, 0-2 is not a hole that you can't dig yourself out of, especially with the roster that you have. You have a good team.
This girl wants to make a trade in a single QB league. My Penix, Hurts for her neighbors and Booty.
He just made you say that on the air, Mike. You realize you've been duped.
I'm hearing Kraft will be good to go.
That's Thank goodness, because I picked up Luke Musgrave or made waiver claims wherever I could, but what's the more that you could have gotten? And how convinced are we that CMC is going to finish the season?
Gotcha. Love it. All right. Well, I'm a little bit too tired at this stage of the game. Let's do one more here.
Don't do that. No, not that. But I would I wouldn't trade Penix Hurts for Neighbor's booty.
There you go. All right, bigz. Let's finish this show off here. Tell everybody what we got going on here right now. After PAT tomorrow, we've got our Dynasty Pulse hitting the waves.
Yeah, and then the following day we got the fantasy forecast with our starts and sits and stuff. I will be on the air at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday with Breakfast with Bigz. I will be on the air. I've had a couple of
he'll be breathing air.
Couple of stumbles.
Sure he'll be on it. But
1 week I was driving home from Oregon. That didn't work out. The next week I just slept through my alarm because I got off work at 12:30 in the evening, and it takes me a while to get to sleep. But this week I have been opening, which means I've been getting up at 8, which means I will be ready on Sunday.
And he'll have breakfast.
And you'll have breakfast with me. And a cocktail. I got a special one coming up. It's gonna be good. So go out and get yourself some brandy, some Crown Royal chocolate whiskey, and some chocolate milk.
Shout out to Corey and Kyle, Jorge. They are on Tuesday nights. If you want to catch their live show, 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, or 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And yeah, they just had their last show over 1,500 reviews. So what a great launch for them.
And Sunday morning is great because you get a half an hour with me, and then you get an hour with the
Spilt Coffee crew.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right. I think it's time for us to hit the hay. We've been podcasting for a good 4 hours straight. So it's time for us to hit the hay, and thank everybody for a great launch to week 3. We're hoping everybody's got their lineup set. And like we mentioned, if you have any questions, be sure to catch from the forum tomorrow night, Friday, 9 p.m. Central for some live Q&A. And then also, like Bigz mentioned, Breakfast with Bigz, the season opener.
And before we get out of here, I'm going to do this, Mike, and I want you to get a capture of it and send it to me.
Let's go. Thanks, Jamie. Have a great weekend yourself, my man. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate everybody tuning in to PAT, Points After Thursday on FSAN. We'll see you next week, everybody, for more Q&A and more good times. Peace out.
Hope you win.
Hope you win.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become